Yes, of course. So my daughter's 18 now, and this hit her, and it did hit her when she was about 11. So the transition year was when the school refusal literally came out of the blue. So up until that point, she'd been happy, healthy, popular, loved school. I was the classic school mum in everything. You know, we did so many activities. And then we were living overseas actually when she was moving from primary to what would be secondary. And it was, just literally one day woke up and couldn't move. The physical sort of aspect of it was what I found the most kind of amazing. It wasn't just, mentally that she didn't have the resilience to go, she couldn't physically do it. And so we started what was nearly a year of trying to get her into school. Hugely distressing, hugely distressing for her, very distressing for the family. And the school were pretty, just get on with it, don't be flaky parents, just tell her what to do. They were pretty sort of, it was a good school, private school, we were paying a lot of money for it. And they had a sort of a pretty just get on with it sort of attitude to her. And so hugely distressing, just trying to every day get her up, get her out. Some days we succeeded, some days we didn't. Some days we just went along and sat in reception in the school. Some days we literally threw her into the class and ran away. It was a very, very difficult time. And at the end of a year, I certainly had had enough. I think my husband had had enough. She definitely had had enough. And it was at that stage we thought we have to do something else here for her mental health and for the family, really, because it was such a destructive and really misunderstood at that time. Maybe it's got better, I don't know, thing. Yeah, I mean, it was huge. And I mean, luck, I think something that was very lucky is that my husband and I both got on the same page about homeschooling, and that certainly I know a lot of couples, they don't agree, and I think that can be a very destructive force in a marriage or whatever, if one thinks they should carry on and the other doesn't. So luckily we both put her first in a way and thought, look, regardless of what happens to her, it's her mental health here that's important, and so I think that was a good thing. It brought us kind of together. Yeah, I mean, I think at that time it was, I mean, we had Kath, who was our initial sort of student manager, and it's just the comfort of having a structure because, we did want her to get O levels and some sort of qualifications, but we didn't have a clue about curriculums or what the heck you're supposed to do with any of it, So having that structure was very, very helpful, and just having the sort of all the resources there was great because it helped us sort of get her a plan. And now the problem for us though was the structure. She's such, if you put any pressure on her at all, she kind of falls apart, So some of the timelines, a lot of the timelines we missed, we sort of trundled on in our own way, the putting the essays in, we did that. But we failed a lot, I think, in the timelines and sort of getting things in on time, Karen, if I'm honest. And we were always conscious that she can step out of this at any time and go back to where we were. So we had to try and kind of nurture her along it. But that meant, I think, for a lot of the sort of, the lovely timetables that you keep sending us, that we don't follow that, and I think that's okay. She still got all her exams, so it's all right, I think, for these anxiety-driven kids. Like, I mean, she's got a great life now and a boyfriend, and like we're having to kind of, and also she hasn't got, she's kind of missed those milestones, so she her friends are going to university, she's not. But it's, I think some of those things are a bit sort of tricky still for her, because she's a little bit behind, whatever behind means. But but in terms of the family, yeah, I mean, it's been absolutely fine now. We're just so happy that she got six very good A levels, or sorry, six very good O levels. She's trying to do three A levels. She's got a plan. She wants to go to university. She has a career pathway. And she's a pretty well-adjusted person, really. I think the bottom line for us was that, my concern was her mental health, and my instinct was, if we keep on pushing her like this, she's going to collapse completely, and she's going to end up with a really big sort of mental health problem, and or hurting herself. That really was where I got. And at one stage I thought, I don't care if she hasn't got an education, as long as she's alive. So like, for parents, I think, trust your instinct, and it's a battle, and we battled with school to be understood and all of that. But at the end of the day, like you say, you can catch up, or you can get on with your life in other ways. It's not the end of the world, and her well-being was what was important, Karen.
Hello and welcome to this Wolsey Hall information webinar for students with anxiety. We have students and families joining us from all around the globe today, so a big welcome to you all. I'm Rachel Hearn, Flexible Learning Advisor here at Wolsey Hall. Just to let you know, we will be recording the webinar and will send out links to the recording to you all a few days after the event. The emails will come via a Zoom email rather than a Wolsey Hall email address. So the format today will be a presentation followed by a question and answer session. You will find the question and answer area where you can type your questions at the bottom of your screens. We would, however, recommend that you wait until after the presentation before adding questions to the Q&A, as we expect many of your questions will be covered in the presentation. Please note, we will not be answering any questions that are specific to an individual child today. For these types of questions, please submit an inquiry form from our website, and our admissions team will be delighted to help you. We'll be putting the website address for the inquiry form at the end of the presentation section. I'm joined here today by a number of colleagues who will be answering questions both in the Q&A area and live in the discussions. So I'll introduce you to Christine Armstrong, the head of primary, and Deja Pygott, the head of our learning support team, who will be giving the presentation. And we also have a number of colleagues from our admissions and tutor teams waiting to answer all your questions in the Q&A area. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Christine and to Deja, who will be giving the presentation about Wolsey Hall, Oxford.
So welcome, everyone. I'm Deja. As Rachel said, I'm the Learning Support Manager here at Wolsey Hall. And I just wanted to start by talking about this idea that anxiety is a spectrum. Mostly because we want you to come here feeling like you've been seen and heard. There is no need for a formal diagnosis of anxieties to receive support from us here at Wolsey Hall. And we understand that it looks different for every child. For one young person, it might be smiles and masking. For other young people, it might be a complete withdrawal from any social situation. So what we're saying is there is space to explore what that anxiety looks like and how it impacts learning, whatever that might be, and we understand that. And really importantly, anxiety and the associated symptoms that come with it shouldn't mean a lack of access to education. There are many, many barriers put into learning when a young person experiences this debilitating situation. And that could come from, having to withdraw from the learning environment completely, the social aspects of being in school, the academic pressure. There are lots of ways that these things manifest themselves to stop learning from taking place. And we don't want that. So there's space here to think about flexibility. Care and support must be flexible in this approach, and we must think about how the young person learns best. What's going to work from them? We heard in that video that the main concern for that parent wasn't about having an education that could take them to this place or that place, but to have a child who was alive. And we want to say that we are here to be flexible in the care and support that we give, but also support those needs to ensure that an education can be attained. So there's constant opportunities to communicate whatever those needs are. We have lots of systems in place, which you will learn about a little bit later in this presentation. But the channels of communication at Wolsey Hall are very good. They're always open to hear what it is that the young person needs. Now here, where I'm based in the UK, the SEND Code of Practice is the statutory guidance that guides a lot of the support that schools have to give for students. And it makes really clear that student and parent voice are tantamount to the support that any school has to give. So we listen to students and parents, we hear what they want, and we try to give them support that they need. Accessing support from other professionals may be needed, and I think that's where we may come in at the learning support team. So who are we? What do we do? We are a team of two, but I would say a well-resourced, well-supported, well-educated, and well-experienced team. So myself, I am a qualified SYNDCO, specialist teacher, specialist assessor. I have a law degree, and I am a Association of Family Therapists practitioner. So I have a lot of experience, knowledge, and I wear a lot of hats, but that's okay. I enjoy that. And Steph is my colleague who is just as equally diverse in the abilities that she has. She's a psychology graduate, she's a tutor, she's a school governor, and she really supports me with the learning support team and the admin that we have here. So between us, if there's something you need to know, we could probably answer your question. If we don't know it, we could find out. And what does that support look like? What is learning support at Wolsey Hall? Well, it's really varied. What I do for one student is not exactly the same for another. It's really incredibly tailored. But one of the first things that we're talking about here, we mentioned communication before, and how sometimes the breakdown in communication can really have a huge impact on the support given to students with anxiety in school. We don't want that being the case here. So I'm always liaising with other members of staff. I'm communicating what it is the student needs from a place and position of experience around learning support needs. I've been doing this for nearly 20 years. And so I think there's that space of knowing that there is someone who could advocate for you, who understands you, and who could support with other members of staff through training, through resources, and just being that voice for you in meetings should you need it. We also offer study skills support. This involves so many different aspects, but we're thinking of things like reading comprehension, understanding what the question is asking you, focus, motivation, how to take notes. Often these things aren't explicitly taught in schools. And so there is this opportunity to really develop and flourish these study skills that will bring a young person this academic success that they've been looking for. And maybe they just haven't been taught. Next, we have academic mentoring. And this is really special. This is a space for students to think about themselves as learners. And I really feel, having worked in schools and traditional schooling, that sometimes that's quite rare. That ability to step back away from yourself and go, what do I want as a learner? Who am I as a learner? What am I afraid of? What are the barriers in place for me? What do I need to do to achieve my goals? It's a safe space for that young person to express their feelings and emotions around learning. And it really does help some of our students stay on track with their studies. There's an access arrangement service. I am a specialist assessor, so I help support in the paperwork and the writing of advice for the exam centers, should you need that. And just general advice and guidance. I often support parents in one-to-one sessions. We talk about learning, teaching, resources, and other products and services that might support the learning for that young person. So when I say, it's really tailored, I really mean it. We also want students who struggle with anxiety to feel connected to others. Loneliness and isolation can often come with that. So we have created a really diverse group of student communities that students can access here at Wolsey Hall. I say to families all the time, you're homeschooling, but you're not alone. And that really is true of the student communities that we have created here, including student forums, parent Facebook groups, art clubs, film clubs. There's so much here to feel connected to other students and connect to students who are going through similar things that that student is. So there's no need to feel alone, and they can reach out as much as they'd like to. And ultimately, all of this is to support a young person's well-being. It's a top priority for us. I don't have to talk lots about it. I think these testimonials speak for themselves. Many people feel that homeschooling has had a really positive impact on their child's well-being. We hope that this space continues to be that for new young people as they join. And we know that there's something really special about having the flexibility and space to learn in the way that works for a young person.
Thank you, Deja. So a welcome from me as well. I'm Christine Armstrong. I'm the head of primary, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about Wolsey Hall and how it works for homeschoolers, to give you a sense of whether or not this might be right for your child. So Wolsey Hall has been around for a long time. It was founded in 1894, and as you can imagine, it's come a long way since the early days of handwritten notes and the penny postal service. We cater to students all over the world. So we actually have students in 130 countries who are all homeschooling using Wolsey Hall courses. So we are incredibly proud to have that representation across the world, and we're incredibly proud of all of the students who have been through the Wolsey Hall journey and are either currently still with us or are now alumni and have gone on to do wonderful things, both at university or college or in their careers. You may notice Nelson Mandela on the screen here, and that's just to say that Nelson Mandela is also an alumni of Wolsey Hall, and we are incredibly privileged to have had him as part of the Wolsey Hall family a while ago. But no matter who our students are, we are incredibly proud of each and every one of them. So just to move on from there, just want to tell you a little bit more about our associations and what the phases of Wolsey Hall look like. So just to start off by saying, we are a Cambridge registered international school. And that's both at primary and secondary level. And in fact, we were the first online primary school to be Cambridge registered. And as part of that registration, we, Wolsey Hall, are part of a family of Cambridge schools all around the world. And we also as well benefit from Cambridge Assessment International, which is part of the University of Cambridge and are responsible for all of the Cambridge examinations that take place around the world. We're also very proud to be a Pearson Virtual Centre as well, alongside Cambridge, and this is part of our relationship with Pearson EdXL, and that benefits us and the GCSE and A-level subjects that our students take following their education on those courses with Wolsey Hall. And finally, just to say, all of our courses also cover the objectives and the content of the English National Curriculum as well. So you can be assured as a family that if you take courses with Wolsey Hall for your child, then you are not only covering English National Curriculum, but also, where applicable, Cambridge curriculum and Pearson EdXL curriculum as well, depending on the course that you are taking. And that's really important because there is a lot of noise online. There are so many resources, there is access to so many things that it's really hard as a homeschooling family to know what resources to use, what to cover, what not to bother covering, what curriculum is needed, so that ultimately your child is making the progress that's needed and developing that knowledge, skills and understanding that they require, that eventually will lead to them being able to take their external examinations, their IGCSEs and A-levels, which then help to form their career pathway or their university or college pathway at that point. So being part of Wolsey Hall and taking courses with Wolsey Hall really helps you to know and be assured that you're following the curriculum that's needed to lead to that end goal of examinations. So I'm just going to move on and talk a little bit about the Wolsey Hall phases and how it works. So we are broken into 5 phases, and we start with lower primary. And lower primary is getting ready for year 1. It's year 1 and year 2. Now, typically, if you were in a mainstream school, this phase would be for students who are 3.5 to 4 years old through to 7 years old. Then we move on to upper primary, and this covers years 3, 4, 5 and 6. And in a mainstream school, this would typically be for students who are 7 years old through to 11 years old. Then we move on to secondary, and secondary starts with lower secondary, which is years 7, 8 and 9. And typically, students in this phase are 11 years old through to 14 years old. And then we move on to the examination years. So lower primary, upper primary, and lower secondary, they all represent 1 year of study in those phases. So if you were to belong to upper primary, you would take a 1-year course at year 3, a 1-year course at year 4, a 1-year course at year 5, etc. And you can take those courses in any subjects that you choose that we offer. And you can be assured that that subject, that course that you're taking, represents 1 academic year of study in a mainstream school. So you have 12 months access to a course, and typically it takes people around 7 to 9 months to complete the course, but we actually have that buffer of extra time so that you can factor in any holidays, etc., that you as a family want to take during that period of time. We also have flexibility in placement, and this is where I think for students that have anxiety and may have, as a consequence, either missed out on some of their schooling, or it might be that there is a sense of frustration because they are not working to the ability that they have. Then this is where Wolsey Hall comes into its own, because we don't dictate at Wolsey Hall that you must join your age-related year group. And so that means you have the flexibility with Wolsey Hall to find the right starting point for your child. And this can be different in different subjects. So you may, for example, have a child who needs to do some catch up, perhaps with English or with maths. And as a consequence, you'd like them to start at a year group below where they would be if they were in a mainstream school setting. Likewise, they may show particular strength in certain subjects. And so therefore you would like in those subjects to choose the year group higher than they would be in their age-related year group in a mainstream school setting. And so we have, because of that flexibility, it really does help those students with anxiety to find the right combination of subjects at the right level for them to help with some of those barriers that Deja was talking about earlier on. So we do have, like placement checks that we can share with a family at the point of admissions to help guide to the best starting point for your child in different subjects. And I'm sure that the admissions team would be thrilled to hear from you with an inquiry if you would like to discuss those requirements and that guidance that we can offer at Wolsey Hall to find the right starting point for your child. So that's the first 3 phases of Wolsey Hall, where each course represents one academic year of study. And then we move on to the exam years. And this is GCSE and IGCSE. The I just stands for international. And this covers years 10 and 11. And at this point, a course at Wolsey Hall represents 2 academic years of study in line with the 2-year programme of study that the exams have attached to them. And typically, you would be studying for GCSE, IGCSEs from 14 years old, taking those exams at 16. But as I mentioned, there is flexibility in that, just as there is for lower primary, upper primary, and lower secondary. And then at the end of the IGCSE, GCSE phase, you take external examinations in your chosen subjects, and that then leads you on to A-levels. And A-levels represent years 12 and 13, typically 16 to 18 years old at this point in your journey. Again, each course represents 2 academic years of study. And then following those external examinations, our students either move on to higher education, going to university or college, or they start on their career path at that point. So I hope that helps just to explain the different phases of Wolsey Hall and where your child might fit into this structure. So just a little bit about how our courses work. So our courses are all on our learning platform, which is called Canvas. And if you enroll onto courses with Wolsey Hall, then you have access to not only the courses that you have purchased, but there are also some other courses as well about owning your own work, being safe online, etc., that you get as part of being a member of Wolsey Hall. So at enrolment, you decide your access date of when you would like to be able to access the learning platform with your admissions officer. And following access to your courses, we have an orientation period, and that really is up to you as a family of whether or not you take 1 day to orientate yourself or 1 week to orientate yourself. And that's your opportunity to have a look around the courses that you have been added to, an opportunity to see how Canvas works as the learning platform. It's when you will meet your student progress manager and your tutors, which I'll talk more about in a minute, and really just get a feel for how studying on our courses will work for you at home. And then, of course, when you're feeling confident with that, you can start studying. So the course itself, or courses that you have been enrolled onto, have a number of things which are really, really helpful and will help to enrich that homeschooling that your child is undertaking. So our courses are modular in form at secondary. So they're broken down into modules and parts of modules. And in primary, they're broken down into lessons that are directed to an adult to help facilitate the learning at home. So the idea is that at secondary, there's a little bit more independence from our students, and they're starting to take responsibility for their own learning. However, we would always advocate parent support and help at home. But in primary, it's a little bit different in that it really does require an adult to be present and available to help direct the learning for those younger learners. So the courses themselves not only have the lessons for you to work through, but there are subscriptions on many of our courses. And so by being part of that subject, you also get a login for that subscription. You have lots of tasks and activities to do on the course. We don't want all of our courses just to be staring at a computer screen all of the time. So some of the activities might take you away from the computer screen. Lots of our courses have textbooks attached to them. So it might be that you come away from the screen to do some reading that you've been directed to. It might be an activity, for example, a science investigation that takes you away from the screen. So we try and get a balance of online and offline activities. There's also quizzes dotted throughout the courses so that you can do a self-check and see how well you're understanding the content of the course. There's web links to further learning. And importantly, we do not have timetabled online lessons. So we will not be giving your child a timetable and saying you must show up on Monday online at 9 o'clock to listen to this teacher talking through a particular concept in a subject. Instead, we have videos embedded into our courses. And this gives you at home the ultimate flexibility, because then you are able to watch that video as you work through the course at your own pace. You can watch the videos as many times as you need to help aid understanding and learning. You can whiz through at a faster pace if there are aspects of the course that you're more comfortable with and you already have knowledge of. And that really is the point of our courses. It's to give you at home the ultimate flexibility. If your child works best in the afternoon, we don't want to be dictating that they need to be online for a live lesson at 9 a.m. in the morning. So the way that our courses work allow you to direct the pace of the learning at home, and you can access the learning from anywhere in the world. As long as you've got access to the internet, you can access them from anywhere, and you can start our courses at any time. So you can add a course to your portfolio of subjects at any point that you want to in a year. We don't stick to term times and start dates. So really, it's ultimately up to you as a family to decide what works best and how it works best for your child. There is one other thing on here to mention, and that's assignments. And assignments are milestones that are dotted throughout the courses at certain points. And assignments are an important aspect of the learning and the progress checking for your child. So when you send in an assignment, and by assignment, it sometimes sounds like a scary term, but assignment might be a written piece of work. It might be a presentation. It might be some artwork. There are different things that constitute an assignment. But when these assignments are sent in, so submitted via the learning platform, then they are marked by qualified, experienced teachers. And as a result of that marking, you get feedback as the student. You get to find out where you're showing areas of strength. You get some advice and tips for next steps in learning. And you as a parent, as a family, can then feel assured that you are having regular check-ins with qualified teachers who are giving you feedback and allowing you to know whether or not you are on track with your learning and making the progress that's needed. In the video right at the beginning, there was reference to the timetable that Fiona mentioned, and that timetable that Fiona mentioned was the assignment schedule. So to help you keep on track at the beginning of your journey with Wolsey Hall, factoring in any holidays, etc., then your student progress manager, who I'll talk about a little bit more in a second, will give you an assignment schedule to help you to keep on track with those assignments and to make sure that you can complete the course in the available time. If there are any changes at home, or if there is anything that comes up that is a barrier to the assignment schedule that you've been given, then you would just reach out to your student progress manager and they can help navigate that and update schedules if need be, to help you at home find the best pathway for your child. So that's how our courses work, and those are the things that are included in our courses. So just to touch on the support for families a little bit more. So I mentioned all of our tutors are UK qualified teachers, and they mark all those assignments that I mentioned. They advise on areas of strength, next steps in learning. They offer you a welcome call right at the beginning, so you and your child can meet the tutor and know who they are. But also as well, there is a messaging facility on our learning platform, and your child or you as a family are able to send a message to your tutor at any time if you have any questions or you need a little bit of support with something on the course. As well as your tutors, You also have a student progress manager, or SPM for short. And this person really is your main point of contact. So whereas you may have many tutors, you may have a tutor for maths, you may have a tutor for science, you would have a single SPM. And that SPM will reach out to you right at the beginning of your journey with Wolsey Hall. And then they will do a couple of different things. They will monitor the progress that your child is making across all of their assignments to ensure that they're keeping on track. They will reach out to you as a family to see how you are getting on and offer any help and offer other information about what's going on at Wolsey Hall. They are available via email anytime if you need to reach out to them. And they're your point of contact on a more administrational level as well. So if you're going on holiday, you can let your SPM know and they can pass that information on to tutors, etc. And they love hearing from you, and they love hearing about all the wonderful things that your child is doing at home. So those are the two areas of support for you as a family, both the tutors and your SPM. So I'd like to introduce you to Abdullah. Abdullah is one of our primary students, and he's just going to share his day with you.
Hi, I'm Abdullah. I'm from Singapore. I study in Wolsey Hall Oxford, doing year 3 and 4. We live near the sea, and this makes us enjoy the nature along with my studies. A typical day for me would be studying, playing, swimming, and spending lots of time with my family. I study maths and English from year 4 and geography, science, and computing from year 3. The day begins with printing out the lesson plans for the day, and after my mom explains them, I do the exercises on my own. Along with the exercises, I also sit with the computer to do activities online provided by Wolsey Hall Oxford. The online activities are interactive, and it helps me to do the subjects like a game, and it's very interesting to me. Along with my regular studies, I get crafting activities from science and geography, which gives me peace of mind, and I take great interest in doing those. My favorite game indoors is to play with building blocks. I love to color when I'm sitting idle. My mom prints out coloring pages, and I love to spend my time coloring them. After studying 1 or 2 subjects, I go out to the playground with my brothers. Homeschooling has been an amazing experience, as I finish my studies in time and get plenty of time to do self-development and build a memorable childhood.
So I hope you enjoyed meeting Abdullah there. A few things to mention. So as a primary student, he references his mum, and his mum talks through the learning with him before he starts. He's also studying at year 3 and year 4. So again, a recognition that he doesn't have to stick to his age-related year group, but can choose subjects based on his ability rather than his age. And you can see that there's a lovely balance there of online and offline activities that Abdullah is doing at home. And they have created and crafted their home timetable to suit how they would like their day to work for them. So in terms of primary subjects that are available, I'm not going to talk about these in great detail, but as mentioned, they represent 1 academic year of study, and in lower primary we have 2 courses in the pre-primary phase, that's getting ready for year 1 English and maths, that are available. And then in year 1 and year 2 we have these other subjects here. So English, maths and science are in blue throughout all of the subject slides. to recognise that they are deemed the core subjects, so the most important of the subjects if you are only choosing a few to do. Humanities, just to mention that is a mixture of geography and history combined, and skills for life is about personal development and self-development. It's about your emotions, how you form relationships, and so that's there's lots of mindfulness in there. So that's a really lovely one for students that may have some anxiety. So moving on from lower primary, when we move into upper primary, you can see that there's a replication of all of those subjects, so you can continue to study them throughout your primary journey. Humanities becomes history and geography as single subjects, so that you can go into those subjects in more depth. We then have computed added into the mix, and we also have English as a second language for those students in kind of year 3 to 6, we have English as a second language if English isn't your first language and you need to do some bridging before you access English as the first language course. So moving on, I'd like to introduce you to Steph. And Steph is one of our IGCSE students at Wolsey Hall, and she's going to just share a little bit about how she organises her day as a student in one of our examination years. And you also get to see a little bit of our learning platform, Canvas.
Well, hi, I'm Steph, a student that does IGCSEs at Wolsey Hall, and I'm here to show you my steps to preparing and completing an assignment.
Step 1. Canvas.
This is the app or website where you're going to get all the information and material you need to learn for your subjects. It is your ultimate learning source. On Canvas, you can do your modules and quizzes, turn your assignments in, receive your assignment marks, and message your tutors for any help. Canvas will be your best friend.
Step 2. Modules.
Every subject contains more or less 9 modules. Every module consists of topics where it gives you tasks you need to complete. Most module work will require you to read some pages, do various questions, and jot down some notes. For my first topic in Economics Module 5, I will need to work through pages 124 to 125 in my course book. Then I'll need to write out some key points, and then I'm gonna have to check out this website they have linked. I usually like to note down any new definitions that I've just learned into my notebook, and I also write down any extra information that I need to remember.
Step 3. Quizzes.
At the end of each module, there is a quiz that awaits to be completed. This quiz is there to test your knowledge from what you've just learned. These quizzes are usually multiple choice, which makes it quite easy and super fun. It is definitely a great way to revise for your upcoming assignment, as you can retake them as many times as you want.
Step 4. Revision and preparation.
Before doing the assignments, it is important to revise and review everything you have just learned one last time. You can even do the quiz once more to make sure that you are fully prepared to do the assignment. Right before I start my assignment, I like to organize my desk space. I put out my assignment, my notebook, and a pen. And if I need to use my computer, I put that out as well.
Step 5. Assignments.
Now it's time to start. Every assignment has an instruction page where it will instruct you to either complete it under exam conditions or if it is an open book assignment. It will also show the recommended time limit, however you don't need to follow this as it is just an assignment. On my economics assignment 5, instructions it says that I need to write on lined paper using a black pen. It also further says to upload your work on Canvas. However, it doesn't say anything about working in exam conditions, so this is an open book assignment. After I finished my assignment, I scan it on an app called Cam Scanner and then send it directly on Canvas.
Step 6. Marks and feedback.
Usually, marks and feedback from your tutor will be given back to you within a week. The feedback you get from your tutor is very helpful as it tells you what you've done correctly and what you must improve on. With the feedback, you also get the specimen answers sheet, which gives all the answers to the assignment. And to make the most of my feedback, I do the questions that I've gotten wrong once more. This is just to make sure that I've understood the module and won't do the same mistake twice.
So I hope you enjoyed meeting Steph there and seeing what her workday looks like as an examination year student. then you can see that the assignment that she's completing are very much in the style of the exams that she will then sit when she takes her exams. So there is lots of training and practice with Wolsey Hall to prepare students for the style of examinations that they go on to take. In the younger year groups, the pre-examination year groups, then the assignments are slightly less formal than what you see in Steph's video. But it gives you a sense of what Canvas is like, and it gives you a sense of the growing independence that you can see in a student that has been with Wolsey Hall for a while and has kind of learnt all of the skills needed to be independent in their learning. So just to move on now to the subjects in secondary, I won't go into these in much detail because there is opportunity if you're interested to then reach out through an inquiry, and the admissions team can go through them in more detail with you. So at lower secondary, covering years 7, 8 and 9, you can see that running theme from primary into secondary. So English as a second language, maths and science continues. We have history and international history. So history having a slightly more UK and Europe focus, international history being a little bit more thematic to different phases globally of history. We have skills for life running through, just to mention digital literacy and computing. So the computing pathway is more based on computer science, so coding, programming. Digital literacy is more about developing those rounded skills, those transferable skills that one should have in IT to be successful in everything that they do. So it's more covering Word, Excel, how to be a global citizen, and those types of things, rather than the coding and programming route. So you can see there are lots of subject choices to choose here. Now at primary, we do say that if Wolsey Hall is kind of your main source of homeschooling, that at primary, we would be saying at lower primary, perhaps doing 3 or 4 subjects, at upper primary, perhaps 5 subjects plus. Lower secondary, this is your opportunity to really discover what subjects you're interested in. If you were in a mainstream school, then you would be doing up to 11 subjects at lower secondary, including things like physical activity. So we would say that 5 to 8 subjects at lower secondary is a good breadth of study. And then we move on to the external examination years. So as mentioned, the examination years lead to you taking external exams. And these external exams you take local to you. So there are a number of examination centres all across the world for students to enter as private candidates and take exams. Now, when you join Wolsey Hall, if you are in these phases of Wolsey Hall, you have access to our live spreadsheet so that you can see what facilities you have local to you. We also have exams officers that can help to signpost you to local exam centres where you live. If you live more remotely, and we do sometimes have people living in quite remote locations, it may be that there isn't a local exam centre to you and you need to travel a little bit to take those exams. But do reach out if your child is at this stage in their educational pathway. Do reach out to our admissions team, do make an inquiry, and they can talk to you a little bit more about the examinations themselves and how that works. So they are globally recognized examinations and they are accepted by universities all around the world and also employers all around the world. And that's both at the IGCSE and GCSE level and also at the AS and the A level as well. So in terms of IGCSEs, these 2-year programs, you can see here the subjects that are on offer. Again, the English is broken down even more into language and literature. Maths is the core subject that most people take at IGCSE phase. There is also additional maths as well for those who really have a particular love and skill in mathematics. You can see the sciences become broken down as well. So you can take discrete subjects, you can take biology, chemistry, or physics as a single subject in their own right, or you may choose to study all 3 of those sciences in combined science or coordinated science. Combined science is a study of all 3 and leads to 1 IGCSE, and coordinated science, again, is a study of all 3 of the science subjects, but in slightly more depth, and that leads to 2 IGCSEs. So if you have a child that's passionate about science, you may take single subjects, biology, chemistry, and/or physics. If your child is looking to move on to A level, then they really should be taking coordinated sciences or biology, chemistry, and physics. For those that need to just recognize that they have science as an IGCSE, but actually it's not forming a pathway for them in the future, then combined sciences might be the right choice for them. But again, our admissions team can help talk you through this in more detail. So you can see there's languages, there's computer science, and there's some new subjects as well, like business studies, psychology. So these are okay to start at the IGCSE level. You don't need to have studied these at lower secondary. So some subjects we would always recommend that you've studied at lower secondary, and there are a few subjects that can be started at the IGCSE level. So we would always recommend that you take a minimum of 5 IGCSEs. In a mainstream school, most students will take between 8 and 10 IGCSEs or GCSEs. So we would always recommend 5 as a minimum, but depending on the pathway for your child, that might mean that they need more. They would certainly need about 8 to 10 if they were looking to the more competitive universities further down the line. And then AS and A level. So AS is the first year of study and A level is the 2-year of study. But again, in terms of how that works, the admissions team can talk you through that if it's of interest. But you can see again, we now specialize a little bit. So at A level, most students will take 3 or 4 A levels. So whereas you take a breadth of subjects at the GCSE, IGCSE level, you then start to specialize at A level. So this really is honing the pathway for future study at university. So additional support for families. So Deja has already talked through the learning support and wellbeing service that we offer. And there are a number of paid for services through this route for families should they need it. We also offer a career and university advice service as well for those that have set pathways, or it might be that they're trying to find the pathway that's for them in terms of the examination subjects that they want to choose, their aspirations for university, college, career. This service can be a really good route for you if you are looking for that support. And we also offer a reference service as well, which is available to those who need references for applications to university, college, etc. And Deja mentioned already, so I won't go into detail, but we do take a more holistic approach at Wolsey Hall than just the academic courses. We have a newsletter we share. There's a student forum for secondary students. There's Facebook groups for our parents. So there are many ways to be connected and feel connected and part of the Wolsey Hall family. So at this point, I'm going to pass back to Rachel to share some questions.
Thank you so much to Christine and to Deja. We'll now move on to our question and answer section. So please feel free now to ask any questions by typing them into the Q&A area you see at the bottom of your screens. Please do let us know the age and level of education your child is so that we can tailor our responses to you. We will endeavour to answer as many questions as possible. However, if you still have a question after the event, do send an inquiry form and our admissions team will be able to give you a very detailed and tailored response to that. So I'm going to begin with a question we have, which is how do you approach the soft requirement of 5 hours for maths, English and science when you have a child who suffers from anxiety? I wonder if Deja, if you could answer that for us.
Yeah, I think we always start by thinking about flexibility. So there is no requirement to start all of those subjects at once. So you may decide to think about building up an education plan very slowly. So perhaps you're doing English first, and then you're slowly adding in more coursework as the confidence of that young person grows. We would say that it is important to try and cover the course content if you're heading for a particular goal, but it depends on what your intention is. Is it exams or university or college? Maybe it's something else. And there is no requirement to study a certain amount of subjects as if you were in school. We would say, think about talking to us about having a tailored plan of work and being really, really flexible with your young person.
Great, thank you, Deja. And can I just ask you, while you're still here, can I speak to learning support team before we enroll, before we commit to enrollment?
Absolutely. We encourage families who have students with additional needs to speak with us before they enroll, and you can do that by following the steps after this presentation is over to get in touch with the admissions team. But we really encourage that. It really helps you get a flavour of what we can do, how the courses might fit for your young person with a learning support perspective.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you. And Christine, can I just ask, what about students outside the UK? Do we work outside of the UK? Do we support students with learning needs and anxiety outside of the UK?
Yes, absolutely. So access to our learning support team and those additional services that some families may choose to access, then that is open to all Wolsey Hall students. So whether you are UK based or whether you are located somewhere else in the world, if you feel that your child would benefit from the mentoring service or the study skills service or more generalistic support from learning support, then obviously they would be very happy to hear from you and for you to take up those services.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Christine. We've got a question about dyslexia, which I'm sure other people will be interested in. What support do you offer for students with dyslexia? Do you offer a text-to-speech service through the courses? So I wonder if Deja could answer that.
Yeah, so we always talk about using the accessibility features in our courses. Canvas has the text-to-speech feature built in. We can help guide you in managing that at home. I'm a specialist dyslexia teacher, so if you need advice and guidance, again, we talked about those one-to-one sessions with young people and their parents. Perhaps you need some more support in understanding how we can adapt certain ideas, resources, assignments. On the whole, we say the course is presented there for you, but we can help support you in thinking about how that might fit your particular situation. But I'm well placed to think about that with you if you want to have a chat with me.
Brilliant. Thank you, Deja. I've got a question here. If my child is not comfortable meeting tutors in video calls, are alternatives available? Christine, I wonder if you could answer that one.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of points on that. So one is it's really important right at the beginning of your journey, which I'm sure would happen anyway, that you share any anxiety that your child has with the team, so that the tutors and your SPM are fully abreast of the situation of your child, and then that helps them to know how best support. We would always encourage meeting tutors and SPM. So it could be that you do it with your video turned off, if you're happy just to listen and talk with that anonymity of not having your face on screen. If you really didn't want to meet virtually with your SPM or your tutor, it might be that the parent wants to take that welcome call instead, so that they have an opportunity to talk with the SPM and the tutor, but the student just listens in the background rather than actually contributing to that video call. And obviously at the end of every assignment, then the feedback that you get is written feedback and comments, and you also have access to the messaging facility on the learning platform as well. So if you're not somebody who likes the face-to-face interaction, then you have the opportunity to send a message instead. But I think that the absolute key is just to make sure that Wolsey Hall is aware of any particular barrier or difficulty that your child is experiencing, so that we can look and see how we can adapt to suit the situation that you find yourself in at home.
Thank you very much, Christine. I've got a question for Deja about SEN assessments. Can these be done through Wolsey Hall?
So as a specialist assessor, I can do SEN assessments. I don't at the moment just because of how busy I am, but it doesn't mean I can't direct you to the right professionals to help you do those SEN assessments. I can do light assessments. We can do sort of short assessment sessions to see where your child is. And there is extra support through the Learning Support Service here at Wolsey Hall. So you're not alone if you need some additional support through those other blocks of support on offer. But assessments is something more tailored to the individual person. I would encourage that person to have a conversation with me so I knew exactly what they meant.
Great, wonderful. Thank you very much indeed. So as we're running out of time, I'd like to go to one final question, which I'd like to invite Tamara to come and answer. So the question is, how can I find out more if I still have questions about homeschooling with Wolsey Hall Oxford?
Hello, I'm from the admissions team. So the next step would be to fill in an inquiry form. There's a link on the screen in front of you. Otherwise, you can go to our website and click on Contact Us and fill in the inquiry form there. That will come to the admissions team. We'll send you some tailored information and arrange to have a meeting with you. We'll also arrange any placement checks or ready tests if those would be helpful to help you assess the course level for your child. So the next step is to fill in an inquiry form either on the website or follow the link on the screen in front of you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Tamara. And I'd like to extend a big thank you to everyone for joining us today. We hope you found this session valuable, useful, and it's given you a good understanding with homeschooling with Wolsey Hall. If you do have any further questions, please do go to our admissions team, and we wish you all the best for your children. We understand that homeschooling a child with anxiety comes with challenges, but we do sincerely wish you all the best. Thank you also to Christine and Deja for their presentations. Thank you. Bye-bye.